I just came back from the clinic. I had a very interesting afternoon, and on my way back, I made some pretty good insights. I'm gonna freestyle this because I find it very interesting. So in psychiatry, we tend to spend a lot of time with the patient. One interview can go for 1 hour, 2, or even 3, where we really learn about the patient's problem. They gave us a longitudinal story of their life and what led them to see a psychiatrist. What I find interesting is it is much easier to have empathy for these patients who come and tell you about their lives for 2-3 hours. And I think the reason is because when they tell us about their lives, we're able to put ourselves into their shoes and we're able to see the full story. We're able to understand where they're coming from and what their struggles are. However, when we meet somebody on the street who might have a mental health problem, we might find it very easy to judge them because we only have a sectional view of what literally just happened instead of the full story. And I can make an analogy also with movies and stories. When we watch a very touching movie, the reason why we're able to feel empathy for a character is because the story or the movie is made so that we feel as if we're in the skin of the person. When I'm listening to a patient's story, it's as if I'm reading a book or watching a movie and my patient is the protagonist. I'm able to relate to them. I'm able to sympathize and say, oh no, how can they do this to you? Or, oh yes, you did it, good job, you can do it. And that is only because I'm able to put myself in their shoes, which is something that I absolutely do not do on a regular basis outside of my bubble. So it showed me that it's important to have that perspective. I'm not saying that we should have the curiosity or the urge to know everything about a person, but just having that once or twice, it confirms that we need the full story to understand their actions. And so it's all about perspective when we talk about judgment. So I'll take the example of the movie Forrest Gump. So Forrest Gump is a childlike character, but the way he is and his life inspired many people because of his optimism. But I'm sure there are people in real life who think kind of like Forrest Gump. And if we were to meet those people without knowing their story, it'd be very easy to judge them because they are outside of the social norms. They act weird in a way. But the movie allows us to not put that judgment and to be able to be inspired by their stories because the movie focused on their longitudinal life. We're able to see exactly what led them to behave the way they do, and it is inspiring. Similarly with the story, when we read about terrible things that happen to protagonists in a story, we're like, how can you do this to them? They are what they are and you're so mean for judging them. But at the same time, if we understand the meaning of perspective, we know that those people cannot necessarily be blamed because they are only making their judgment based on one situation that they know of that person. So I think that's what the long psychiatric interviews allowed me to realize, is that I have less of a tendency to judge my patient in front of me than someone on the street. And that is because the patient's story allowed an intimate view of their life, which I could not have access to someone that I judge on the street. But the fact did not change. It's only our attitude and the perspective. So I think what I learned is that judgment is never based on full truth. It's always based on partial reality. Partial meaning from our point of view, it is okay to judge. But if we put ourselves from that person's perspective, then we can only feel empathy and not judgment. So here is my 2 cents for today.